Hey guys, today I want to share 5 helpful tips for new players just starting the game to hopefully help your progression in Trove go a bit smoother. This is in preparation of Trove's newest expansion, Geode, set to release June 26th. There are much more than just 5 tips a new player can use, however these are 5 tips that my community have come up with just for this video, so thank you very much for anyone that has helped me out with this video, and let's hop into it. Starting off with tip number 1, the first thing to pop up right when you start the game, class selection. I just want to start off by saying that every class in Trove is viable for farming all in-game content. However, with the way classes scale in Trove, there are definitely better classes than others to start out with. So let's just do a quick TLDR of the classes, starting from left to right, and I'll put my personal rank over each of the classes visually on the screen for you. First up is the Tomb Raiser, a minion summoning tank. This is a great class to start out with due to the amount of survivability with its Banshee mode, reducing damage taken by a whopping 75%, and then you also have up to 8 minions that can all be out at once, just a bunch of bodies to help you tank. If you find yourself dying a bit more than you would like, this is a great class to try out. Next is the Boom Ranger, a unique class that can equip both melee and ranged weapons while also having a purely cooldown based ability kit. This class is extremely powerful in the early game due to its high base stats and hard-hitting ultimate. However, this class does suffer from fall-off more than pretty much any other class in the entire game, making it more of a weaker endgame class as of the game's current balancing. The next class is the Gunslinger. It's a Gunslinger. This class is almost the polar opposite than the Boom Ranger. It is one of the weakest starting classes in the entire game with a very poor ultimate and no real damaging abilities besides a proc-based right-click, meaning you're mostly just going to be doing left-click damage. However, just like I said, this class is actually the most powerful class in the entire game by far, as of the current game's balance in the end game, after you obtain your class gem and appropriate stats. So it's safe to say that you will be playing this class at some point, and I would recommend another class just for now. Next class up is the Candy Barbarian, a dual-wielding powerhouse that not only heals but also buffs the entire party. This class is like the Boom Ranger with extremely high base stats and even harder hitting abilities. However, I do recommend this class a bit more than the Boom Ranger, as it has next to no drop-off when it comes to endgame content like the Boom Ranger does, has harder hitting abilities, and is one of the most important classes, if not the most important class, when it comes to party play, due to the attack speed buff it provides the entire party. I could not recommend the Candy Barbarian enough as a starting class. The last starting class is the Knight. The Knight, being a melee class, has pretty high base stats, and its ultimate makes the class nearly invincible for the 10-second duration, while also providing the entire party a damage reduction shield. It's not really the best at anything, but it does do everything very, very well. It's pretty much the jack of all trades in Trove. If you ever want to try out any of the classes in Trove, you can also use the class trial system and play any class to level 4 just to try out. Moving on to tip number 2, I highly recommend following the in-game tutorial system to the very end. I know that sounds a bit redundant to put the tutorial in a tips video, however, I get asked all the time about systems that are actually taught later on in the tutorial, and people just tend to stop following the tutorial after the game opens up in the hub. The tutorial is very important in teaching new players end-game mechanics early on, like Dragon Challenges and Shadow Tower, which should both be started right away as they are hourly and weekly rewards that you definitely don't want to miss out on. Tip number 3 is to not worry so much about what stats are on your equipment until either Uber 8 or Uber 9, and focus solely on your power rank. I'm not saying don't worry completely about your stats, you still need to be able to kill things, but don't focus on getting perfect stats on all your gear while you're still below Uber 9. It's much faster to just level up poorly statted gems and get into Uber 9 as quick as possible, because stellar gems, the rarity that is only attainable in Uber 9, are miles better than the Uber 8 gems, and as long as you participate in group play, you won't even notice a difference in your kill speeds. If you are more of a solo-focused player, just make sure you have gems that have at least one good stat, like a base damage stat or a crit stat, and if you still feel like you are super underpowered, either drop down on Uber level or just grind those better gems. It will just take you so much longer than someone who can fly through the Uber levels, and that is just something you need to keep in mind. Another quick tip is to buy the cheapest stellar gear from Trade Chat as possible. Some stellars are running as low as 10,000 flux, so even someone that has no clue how to make flux can get a full set of stellars in their first hour or two of playing Trove. And this will give you an insane amount of starting power That could be the difference of being able to enter Uber 9 much earlier than someone who doesn't have a full set of stellars. Tip number 4 is if you are in need of flux, grind items that also make you flux at the same time. Try not to focus solely on flux. For example, there are a few dragons that you farm by grinding materials like glacial shards and sunlight bulbs. In this case, it is RNG how fast you do get the dragon fragments. However, I personally made over 1,000,000 flux just by farming the glacial shards I needed to get all 5 dragon fragments for the glacial dragon. I was extremely unlucky, but I had to do it because the dragon fragments are untradeable, and in turn, it made me a decent amount of flux for something I needed to do. Also, by focusing on dragons first, you are raising your base magic find, which means you're going to be getting better drops as you're out raising your power rank, something you need to do. So more advanced players can also check out my marketplace guides to learn how you can always be making flux no matter if you're out grinding or in bed sleeping. I'm not saying you're gonna get rich quick by just focusing on things you actually need instead of focusing solely on flux, but if you do find yourself without flux quite often, then it's more likely it's because you are too focused on how to make flux and not just going out and doing it.
Just do it!
Finally, for tip number 5, if you ever feel a little bored or just want to break from doing dungeons, Geode is almost an entirely different game that is just a portal click away. It is more of an exploration-focused section of the game with close to no combat at all. It introduces so many mechanics and systems that aren't in the base game, like companions, an upgradable suit that you can use to travel deeper into the tiered cave system, a new profession, a battle royale-ish mode called Bomb Royale, and much, much more. Once again, Geode is set to release the 26th of June, and I personally am really looking forward to all the new systems and sense of exploration that this new patch brings. If you still have questions, you can always check out the rest of my channel for hundreds of Trove guides, marketplace tutorials, box openings to see which bosses are actually worth opening rather than selling, let's plays, and much more. You can also always stop by my Twitch channel in the description below to ask me personally pretty much anything you want, and that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you give it a like, and if you haven't yet, click that subscribe button plus the bell next to it so you can be notified whenever I upload a video. If you would like to further support the channel, make sure to check out my Humble Bundle affiliate links in the description below. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time.